Sunday, the 28th of Shvat, we're holding in chapter 25, Likutei Amarim. The flow, the concealed love to God that every Jew possesses helps one not only in refining or in refraining from sin, this love that every single Jew has, the hidden love, the Ahava Mesuteret, every single Jew has it, every single Jew possesses it, it helps you to refrain from sin. Rather, moreover, in leading one to perform all the positive commandments. So it does two things, Sur Mera and Aser Tov, it helps us stay away from sinning, and it helps us do the positive commandments. For example, providing energy to overcome the laziness from the evil inclination which prevents one from serving God enthusiastically. So a person says, why should I do it? Maybe I'm not excited, too lazy, this. The Ahava Mesuteret, the hidden love, helps us to get over it, to overcome it. Now, if one, in today's lesson, if one were willing to give up her life for God, self-sacrifice, how much more so one should live to serve God, exerting one's energy to overcome all challenges. Obviously, you're willing to give up your life, so why not to use all your powers to serve Hashem? Thank God you're not required right now to give up your life, but if you do a mitzvah, do it wholeheartedly. וכיוצא באילו ממלחמות היצר ותחבולותיו לקרר נפש האדם, שלא להפקיר ממונו ובריאות גופו. And in similar matters that entail great effort, where one must struggle with the evil inclination and its wiles, which seek to cool and its wiles which seek to cool the ardor of man's soul, claiming that he ought not to dissipate his money. Don't waste your money in the case of charity or his health, in matters requiring physical exertion. It tells you excuses. Maybe you should worry about your health, maybe you should worry about your money, don't waste your money, don't give tzedakah. He finds ways to cool you off. You know a famous joke that the rabbi said, we want to build a shul, and we have good news and bad news. The good news that we have the money, the bad news that it's in your pocket. What's the problem that it's in your pocket? Because from the heart to the pocket, it's a long journey. The heart wants to do something, but then the hand is like heavy to go to the pocket and give the money because of this evil inclination that cools the person off. Says, hey, well, don't spend too much. You already gave to somewhere else. And this, that. שלמד נגדו ולחובשו קרוב מאוד אל האדם כשישים מליבו שנצח היצר בכל זה ויותר מזה. It is very easy for a person to resist and subjugate his nature when he considers deeply that to conquer his nature in all the above and more, ולעשות הפכו ממש קל מאוד מייסורי מיתה השם ישמרנו. And in fact, to do the very opposite, to exert himself strenuously, both bodily and financially, is much lighter suffering than death. May God preserve us. ויסורי מיתה, השם ישמרנו, היה מקבל בעבר ברצון שלא להיפרד מייחודו ואחדותו יתברך, אפילו לפי שעה, להשתחוות לעבודה זרה חס ושלום. Yet he would be lovingly and willingly have accepted the pain of death, God preserve us, as not to be departed from God's unity and want us even for a moment by an act of idolatry, God forbid, like the famous story with Hannah and her 7 children. For as mentioned earlier, every Jew would sacrifice his life rather than practice idolatry, since he knows that it represents separation from God. Why Jews were willing to give up life throughout all the generations? They gave up their life and did not commit idolatry, because they knew by doing so they're separating themselves from God, and no Jew is willing to do it. It's a Holocaust survivor. He sends his son to a Catholic school, and one day he comes back from the He didn't have any other school, either Jewish school or Catholic school. So since he's angry at God, claims there's no God, so he sent his son to the Catholic school. So one day he comes back with a cross on his shirt. So it irks his father, so he picks him up and he says, there is a God, but we don't believe in him. There is a God, but we don't believe in him. Which is an oxymoron to say it, but it just shows that there's a certain point the Jew in him wakes up. And then the Jew in him woke up, there is a God, but we don't believe in him. So
I heard the atheists are the biggest believers.
Yeah, so those who scream the hardest, there is no God. There's one professor in Israel, every year he gives a lecture about God's silence in the Holocaust. And he starts his speech that he doesn't believe in God. That's how he starts his speech. So one rabbi told him, you're giving your speech about God's silence in the Holocaust. How does it work? Meaning, there was a God, but now he chose to be silent. So are you pro? I believe in God, you don't believe in God. He said he didn't answer me. The whole of the subject doesn't make sense. If you say that somebody is silent, meaning that he spoke before. Right now he is silent. If he was deaf and mute his whole life, then he spoke before, now he is silent. For as mentioned earlier, every Jew would sacrifice his life rather than practice idolatry. Certainly, then he ought to accept lovingly and willingly the comparatively minor pain of exerting himself in the performance of the mitzvot in order to bind himself to God, to bind himself to God with an internal bond. So we're willing to do everything and willing to give up our life, not to separate ourselves from God, but at the same time, we don't exert ourselves to connect with Him, to bond with Him. So why don't you do the same? You're willing to go through all this suffering, not to separate yourself from God. What do you do about connecting with Him, bonding with Him? Exert yourself a little bit to bond with Him. I'm not telling you to kill yourself, but exert yourself. Sweat a little bit. Telling to myself, not just this is the subject, no pun intended. The Alter Rebbe now goes on to explain how mitzvahs affect an internal bond with God. So how do we bond with Hashem? Through mitzvahs. So when we do the mitzvot, we do them properly, then we bond with Hashem. Regardless you bond with Hashem, the question what level and how. דהיינו, כשיעשה רצונו יתברך בעבודה זו יתגלה בפנימיות רצון העליון בבחינת פנים וגילוי רב ולא בהסתר כלל. For by fulfilling God's will through this service, despite the exertion involved, the innermost divine will be revealed. The pnimiut haratzon, the innermost divine will be revealed in that specific mitzvah that he does, internally, as opposed to surrounding. Instead of having it hovering above, now it's going to be revealed internally. As opposed to surrounding it or hovering over it from above. And very manifestly without any obscurity whatsoever. Imagine it could be revealed, no concealment, and all that comes just by someone exerting himself. Yeah, there's always the next level, there's always where to push. Trust me, God didn't leave any room for mistakes. As explained in chapter 23.
I told a girl to put on, to light the candles.
Right.
So it said you do one more mitzvah,
right.
So I'm looking when I was first done, I'm looking around, where is he already?
Where is he? Yeah. As explained in chapter 23, the mitzvah represents God's innermost will. We just learned in the morning, for certain tzaddikim, because they didn't have the concealment, for them the Beis HaMikdash was not destroyed, they still see it.
Right, we learned that in the mimer.
Yeah. So, as explained in chapter 23, the mitzvah represents God's innermost will, and when one performs them, this will stands completely revealed. This will stands completely revealed. The will of God that is in the mitzvah will be revealed. וכשאין שום הסתר פנים ברצון העליון when there is no concealment of the countenance of Ratzon Elyon, the will of God. Azai en davar nifrad klal uchlal liot yesh v'davar b'fnei atzmo. When there is no concealment of the countenance of the divine will, nothing is at all separate from godliness. Meaning the feeling of being separated, God forbid, from Hashem, or feeling independent, only comes along because of the concealment. Once you're able to remove the concealment, there's no more a feeling of independence or feeling separated from Hashem. Having independent and separate identity of its own. As explained chapter 22 and 24, no created being can possibly consider itself separate from God unless the divine will is concealed from it. So in a way, you're right. If you take away any kind of concealment, then there will be no free choice. Exactly. But if there is every mitzvah by itself, one at a time, we are able to remove another concealment, another concealment, another partition, another screen, and then it brings to the time of Mashiach. That's the idea.
Well, you say, okay, I put on tefillin. Oh, you put on tefillin since you're bar mitzvah, and you want to see the revelation of Hashem. So you could say, no.
So I told you there was a rabbi, Rabbi Adas. I told you he famous Kabbalist in Israel. He said that he used to daven in Hebron, in Marat HaMachpelah, in the cave. Right. And he said that there was a booth of tefillin.
All right, you told me this there, but the soldier.
Right. So the soldiers would put on tefillin in the morning. Guys would make them put on tefillin, them on, say Shema, take them off. Mm-hmm. So it was one officer that not only that he didn't put tefillin, but he ridiculed the other soldiers that were doing it. And you're doing it time after time after time. So this rabbi walked over to him and asked him, why do you do it? So he said that his father's a goy, his mother's a Jew. And so the rabbi told him, do you know what it means? Do you know what tefillin is? He said, yeah, it's boxes that inside there's some words from the Bible. So he told him, but what about the part that tefillin has that connects your neshama with Hashem? So he said, do you feel it? Do you feel it? So the rabbi told them, you can feel it, but not everybody feels it. He said, what should I do to feel it? How can I do to feel it?
Put it.
So he told them that you have to put it with devotion, with the intent. So putting on tefillin with the intent to connect with God. If I just put on the tefillin because my father did it, and it's a traditional thing to do, and everybody does it, and I need to pray, so I'm putting it, it's one thing. But if you're putting it on with the intent that at this moment, this mitzvah, I want God to connect with me, he explained to him more of what to do. Mm-hmm. And the guy said, I want to try it. And the soldiers told him, 1 second, you just told us, you just laughed at us. Well, what are you doing? He said, no, I got to try it. And he put it on. He did what he told him to do, and he felt it. And he started putting on tefillin regularly. He said one day he was off, it was at home, and he couldn't find the tefillin. So he said he was walking in the street until he found somebody gave him tefillin to put on. It just shows you that and he said it's not only in tefillin, every mitzvah that we do, we have that capability of arousing that intent, wanting that the will of God will be revealed.
The sparkiness.
So what he's saying is you have to have the kavana. So
kavana allows the yes,
on a daily basis, every action that you do.
It's too simplistic.
It's not mechanical. It's not. It turns.
I have to think about that. It's good.
Obviously, yeah. So thus his soul, i.e., the soul of the person performing the mitzvah, both the divine and the animating soul, and their garments. We speak about the nefesh elokit and the animalistic and the godly soul. Nefesh elokit ve'achiyunit. Achiyunit is the vital, the physical, the animalistic. Ulevushen and their garments. Miyuchadot betachlit ha'echud beratzon alyon v'or insuf baruch hu kanizkar le'el. His soul, the soul of the person performing the mitzvah, both the divine and the animating soul and their garments of thought, speech, and action, the three garments that we have, will be united in perfect unity with the divine will and with the infinite light of God, blessed be He, as explained above.
Good.